Okay, hello everyone who is watching our YouTube live stream or the recording of this week's growth call. I'm Christoph Ateneder and I'm your host today. As always, I already posted the Hangout invitation link in the chat, so you can join us here live. Or if you just want to watch live stream, feel free to post your comments, questions in the live chat, and we try to address them during the call or at the end of the call. Our growth calls, like the one today, are about everything that helps to grow the Bisq network itself. So if you watch this, you probably know what Bisq is, but just in very short, couple of words. Bisq is the only true decentralized exchange to exchange fiat with cryptocurrency or crypto with other cryptocurrency. If you're interested in more details, please have a look at the introductional video on Bisq, which I'll link in the description below after the call. Yeah. Today's call is very special as we are celebrating our latest release, version 0.90. It took us quite some time because there were big features involved. And for that, we invited contributors to the call. We have a couple of them already in the call, and I guess some of them will join within the next couple of minutes. Yeah, and as you might expect, to release this kind of software takes different kind of skill sets. So we had engineers, copywriters, translators, testers involved to make this release happen. And as the contributor base is growing bigger every day, actually, maybe we could do as a start a quick intro round before we get started. Maybe Manfred, if someone doesn't know you already, do you want to say what you are? What's your roles in Bisq? You have many roles, but of course, but just if someone
yeah, sure.
Who you are.
Yeah, I started the project a few years ago. I don't remember actually how many. I think 5 years it's already now. And yeah, the main developer for a long time. Luckily now we are much more developers and a much bigger team already. And yeah, I mean, that's my rough background with Bisq and a long time developer, and I've done non-development stuff before, studying music and social anthropology. It's not a completely different background, but it helps sometimes also with this kind of work.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, do you want to go next?
Steve, I think you're muted.
Steve, we can't hear you, Steve. Still not. Yeah. Just take your time. I, for myself, I have a gaming background as a game development over the last couple of years, and joined Bisq about a little bit more than a year ago. And I'm focusing most of my time on doing the UI development on Bisq, and then organizing these growth calls and if you would call it in a regular company, business intelligence. So setting up reporting sheets and so on. So that's my part and interest in Bisq. And yeah, I see in the chat that we have a couple of Bisq contributors there as well, like SQ. Steve, do you want to give it another try? Or if not, also I think okay, try to reconnect. Chris will join us soon. We see the video at least, but maybe we can do it ongoing. Okay, Steve has some issues with his audio, so no worries. Before we get into celebration mode and talk about our release, just a super quick market update. So last month, November was exceptional again. So the last couple of months, it's kind of crazy. We saw last month an all-time high on our Bitcoin volume. So we had more than 1,400 Bitcoin traded, roughly about 2,300 trades in total. So that's great progress there. Also, the US dollar volume was a little bit lower than the month before. So we ended around 6.7 million, but yeah, that's of course because of the current market price of Bitcoin. So we are on a good road, and this month looks also quite promising. We are past $1 million volume, but yeah, it's just too early in the month to make any predictions where we will end. So yeah, then let's go back to the main topic today, our release. So first, a big thanks to everyone who helped make this happen. We had quite a crunch time this Monday. We planned to release 0.90 for a long time, and I promised you 2 weeks ago and 4 weeks ago. But yeah, as all big software projects, it's the details that matter in the end. And on Monday we were quite ready from a feature set, and we had a really great tester client. But then because we recently switched from Java 8 to Java 10, we had issues with the packaging build pipeline for Linux and Windows, and yeah, it looked like that we might not be able to release it at all, because yeah, Linux was just crashing after a couple of seconds, and same was on Windows. So it was kind of a pain. But in the end, with the help of you guys, MC helped us out with his Linux skills. We were able to get the release out Monday night, very short before midnight. I think it was sometime 10 or 11. Yeah, and it was yeah. So far it looks really good. Of course, with every big software release, there is a bug fixing phase afterwards immediately. So we got a lot of issues posted, some minor, and some of them, and we will try to release a bug fix release early as next week already. So we're aiming for Thursday, and so I think with 0.91 it will give the big redesign and the Bisq DAO launch on testnet and extra polish. And yeah, I'm really happy that so little popped up with this release. I just saw that Chris joined us as well now. Hi, Chris. Maybe do you also want to give a super short introduction if someone doesn't know you already?
Yeah, sure. I'm a co-founder of the project, in that I got involved early on, somewhere in the 2014 timeline when Manfred was creating the project, and I've been involved in some way or another ever since. And you know, I've been involved in kind of promoting the project, giving talks about it, and writing about it, and so on. I'm a software developer too, involved with open source for a long time, and it's all kind of great timing that we do this, because it's a little bit of a brief farewell for me. I'll have some health issues, and I'll be away from the project for the next couple of months while I take care of those. So it's a nice time to. I'm really glad that I get to cheers with everybody, and you know, and to see this this redesign come together before taking off for a little while. So
yeah, it's great to see you again. Such a long time. Yeah, and you said cheers. Yeah, I will try to. I will have a very Austrian choice this time. I go for a beer, and yeah, unfortunately, everyone is at some other place of the world. Okay, maybe Chris, we could cheers in Vienna, but yeah.
Indeed, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, cheers.
Cheers, guys.
And also
thanks for everybody
who's
for the release.
Watching the live stream. Yeah, so many people were involved and helped. Yeah, it took us, I think, a couple of months when Pedro, or when was it that Pedro came up with the redesign? I think it was half a year ago, roughly.
I think it's even longer. I don't remember exactly, but I think it's quite a while.
Yeah, I think it's a good example of how unpredictable and messy but totally beautiful a project like this can be, right? None of us knew Pedro at all. None of us expected somebody to drop a beautiful design on us, you know, but at the same time, like, we don't have what we need to make it all happen in like by the next release or in 2 weeks or 1 month or whatever, and things just take as long as they take. And I was, again, I've been like, in many ways, on the sidelines of the project for the last months because of my condition. It was just amazing to watch everything come together, just piece by piece by piece. And it basically, in many ways, I think time is on our side, right? We don't have to rush. We don't have shareholders breathing down our neck. We're not trying to do an IPO or an ICO or anything like that. And it just makes me very happy to see things come together in their own time. And for people to be able to do what they can, when they can, and to have it come out to a good end. There's something beautifully relaxed about that. I don't know how relaxed you guys felt in the last few days, but from my perspective, it was really nice to watch.
Yeah, and I also would like to mention, like the way how Pedro did this, he just sent an email with a PDF where he laid out the basic idea for the design with the new logo, with the fonts, with the web page redesign, with the application redesign. It was just a perfect pitch from a really world-class designer, and we didn't know him. He just did it. He was a Bisq user and thought, he could help maybe there, and he was just producing it and came to us, say, guys, would you like to do this, to implement this? And that's basically the perfect case for a Bisq contributor who see, okay, there's a problem. The design was not great like it was before. You can improve this. He has the skill to do it. We just do it and make a presentation to us to this. And of course, then it's our job to implement it and so on. But that was a fantastic way how it worked. So we wasn't kind of like searching for a person doing stuff or whatever. He was the active guy who was self-motivated and solving problems. I think that's really the key here. There are many problems out, and sometimes people prefer to complain about stuff because that's easier to talk, like to do real work. But we need the people who do the real work and who do this. And Pedro was a fantastic example for this. Unfortunately, he cannot join. I just chatted with him on Slack. He's in work, and he cannot join. Unfortunately, the call would be great to cheer for him.
Yeah, it's difficult as all our contributors are spread out all over the world. So yeah, still, it's nighttime in Vienna, but yeah, it's quite early. I think in New York it might be some time, 8, 9, 10 in the morning. Yeah. Yeah, the redesign was one big part of the 0.90 release, but the other maybe hidden, but even at least as important or more important part that made it into the 0.90 release, as it was definitely more important part, was the Bisq DAO release on testnet. So now it's not just our pen and paper play. We do it every month. The people are filing compensation requests on GitHub, and then we transcribe the compensation requests to our Google spreadsheet, and everyone who contributed already has the possibility to vote for compensation requests, and that is now all automated, available on testnet. So we are trying to test how the Bisq DAO could work from an organizational part, and also from a business model part within testnet. And Manfred, maybe do you want to show quickly the current state on testnet, how the client looks like right now, so people can download it, start it, and start trading BSQs and get involved.
1 second, I just make a bigger background. That's white. Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
That's one of the testnet clients. To change to testnet, as when you want to participate in this testing and playing around with the DAO, you just go to settings. Unfortunately, at the current release, there's a bug, so you cannot change between usually it's mainnet, your Bisq client, and you could change here to testnet. But because of a small bug, you cannot do this. In the next upcoming release in a few days or next week, that's fixed. But you have to, you can do it still. Either you run it from source code and add the program argument or Bitcoin One second, what's exactly the program argument? Base currency network is BTC testnet. I will post it then, or it's in the documentation on the forum, and there are some instructions how to use it. So, and that's written there. And when you start Bisq with this program argument, you are starting it up in testnet. In testnet, the DAO is activated by default. On mainnet, it's deactivated. You don't see this menu item there. And on testnet, so we have not mirrored basically the real BSQ, which contributors have earned over the time, and the real Genesis distribution for various reasons. I was thinking a little bit to use really the real compensation requests, and maybe also do then the voting in parallel there. But one thing is that we want to have here for testing very short iterations for the compensation requests and for voting and so on. Otherwise, it's a little bit boring when you have to wait 3 weeks before you can do the voting, and it doesn't help us so much when we want to get many iterations of these cycles to have more chance to fix stuff and to improve stuff in between. And the other thing, it would have been complicated to really keep it in sync and everything. So at the end, decided to have it completely independent. So there, the testnet BSQ are completely play money. They are not related at all to your real BSQ, what you might have earned already. And when you need some new BSQ, just post it anywhere in Slack or on the forum, and I can send you some. You can buy it also from other users, as there are offers on both sides for, you have to set up an account first. So you go to the DAO, to the wallet section, and on receive, you can copy their address just by clicking on it. And then you set up a altcoin account. Also, BSQ is basically treated like an altcoin. Technically, it's Bitcoin itself also, but from the user perspective, it's like another altcoin. You're adding in your address, save your account, and then you have set up an account. And with that, you can buy BSQ. For buying BSQ, you need to sell Bitcoin. It's always the opposite, of course, with the altcoin. So when you want to get some BSQ, you take one of the offers, or you create your own offer, or you just ping us on one of our communication channels, and you get some free. And what you can do, you have your wallet here, where you have the send and receive functionality like a normal wallet. You see all the transactions. And in the governance, there's some more interesting stuff. We are already now in the phase. So here you see the different phases. Also, there's a proposal phase where people can make the proposal, like a compensation request. And here are roughly the dates when it will be. We are using blocks for counting the time. So it's never 100% exact, but here you see the roughly estimated dates. And after the proposal phase, there's the voting phase, which has actually two phases, the blind vote and the vote reveal. Blind vote is because while you can do the voting, the votes of the others are all encrypted, so you cannot see what other people have voted. And in the vote reveal, everybody need to reveal their secret key with which was used for the encryption. And but then you cannot vote anymore. So that's a protection to avoid the incentive that you would vote in the last minute, because then you have more information what other people have voted, and then the voting process would have become more vulnerable for several attack scenarios. And after the voting, there is the vote result phase. That's just 1 or 2 blocks basically. And there, all the data is out then from the votes. So every client is taking this data and generating the vote result if the compensation request was accepted or not, or any other of their possible proposals. So that's the main features. At the moment, as I said, I cannot really show here because it's not deactivated. We are outside of the proposal phase. Now we are in the voting phase. So when you're here, you can select one of the proposals and can do the voting. I think I have not voted yet. So you just click accept here, for instance, or reject, or ignore. Does mean you don't have time, or you're not there. The skill set to review this proposal, like when it was a contribution. Somebody has done some bug fix or whatever, and when you're not a developer, then probably doesn't really make much sense that you give your opinion, because you're probably not able to review this. So you leave it then to those contributors who have the competence to do this. And you can, with the money what you have already in your wallet, you can use this for voting. That gives then a different weight to where you define how much weight you want to put on your vote. The more BSQ you are using for the vote, the more influence your vote will have. And when you have already earned some BSQ, as in the next round, those who have made a compensation request and got voted okay, they will issue BSQ and after the vote, at the vote result phase. And in the next voting round, this will be added to the earned BSQ. So when I have made, for instance, a compensation request for whatever, no, that's something else here. Yeah, that was the real compensation request for this month for all the DAO work of the past months. That was 85,000 BSQ. That was quite a lot. And in the next months, I would have here 85,000 BSQ, which from my earned, the vote weight from my earned BSQ. And that get accumulated over time. It has a little bit of decay, so over 2 years, it will fade out to 0. But it helps. Yeah, it's this idea of the meritocratic approach for the voting, that those who have earned the BSQ by real work, that this has more value, like when you only rich and buy it on the market. And probably the intention behind is that, or the motivation is that the people who are working on the project, they know usually much better the project, because they're in deeper contact, like people who are just outside fans and who are just voting with the money.
And Manfred, is there a downside putting all your BSQ tokens to vote?
You cannot, so it's blocked until the vote reveal, because the BSQ, what you put in the vote here, is sitting in this transaction and you cannot spend it. Otherwise, your vote will become invalid. The only way how it will be unlocked again is in the vote reveal transaction. Yeah, in the vote reveal, you don't have to do anything actively. You just have to open your client that the application is publishing this vote reveal transaction. Otherwise, your vote would become invalid at the end. And it will be blocked at the moment. Our phases are very short. That's something like a proposal phase, I think 3 days, and then vote 2 days, and vote reveal also 2 days. In reality, it will be a little bit longer, but the voting phase will still stay short. But I mean, your funds are locked for this 3 days or whatever. That's the only downside. I mean, maybe it's good to not use all of your funds, because then you cannot pay trading fees or whatever. To leave a little bit at least, but it depends. The more you put in, the more influence your vote will have. And the important thing is that the BSQ system only works with confirmed transactions. So when you make a transaction, I just show it when I send myself some BSQ. I just sent here 11 or 111 BSQ. And now we see here is an unconfirmed transaction. So the system doesn't know if it's a real BSQ transaction or not, because it's not in the blockchain yet. And only once when it's confirmed, it will be evaluated. Wow, that was fast. On testnet, we just had luck and got the confirmation. And then, it changes, and then it's evaluated and verified if it's BSQ or not. It's a little bit complicated to use to show our pending transaction, which are visible in the network as BSQ transaction, because we cannot validate it. With Bitcoin transactions, a little bit different, because a Bitcoin transaction will be only relayed by full nodes when it's a valid Bitcoin transaction. When you create the invalid Bitcoin transaction, the nodes will reject it. So but the BSQ transaction is not validated by the Bitcoin nodes. They are blind to the BSQ system. So I could create an invalid BSQ transaction and send it to somebody, and then the other person think he will receive real BSQ, but then when it's confirmed, he discover, okay, it was an invalid transaction. And for these reasons, we decided to keep it also simpler, everything, and just ignore unconfirmed transactions. So when you have an unconfirmed transaction, it's unverified. It's basically unknown what's the state of this is. And the available balance is always the sum of all your UTXOs, so the unspent transaction outputs, And that depends how your wallet looks like. When you have a lot of small UTXO and you send some BSQ, then it doesn't matter. I can show it again or to make it more clear what I want to explain. Let's see, let's send a small amount. And we see now, yeah, I had probably used this small amount from a big UTXO with a lot of money, and I only have another UTXO or several other UTXO which result in 118 BSQ. So the amount which I could spend at the moment would be only 118 BSQ, because the rest is basically unconfirmed at the moment, and the wallet doesn't know if it's really BSQ. So we have to wait for one confirmation until you can spend your full, your theoretically full wallet balance. That's a little bit confusing thing, maybe. I mean, some Bitcoin wallets are operating in a similar way, that they are ignoring basically unconfirmed transaction because they're basically not secure. But in the Bitcoin system, there are security aspects regarding this is a little bit different. Like here with BSQ, as said, a Bitcoin node would not relay an invalid Bitcoin transaction, but it would relay an invalid BSQ transaction.
Yeah, sorry. Manfred, Steve is asking if the earned BSQ is added to the specified stake, or he's asking, so if I have earned 1,000 BSQ, I don't need to specify the stake.
You still have to add anything, so you cannot make a transaction with 0, but you can take the minimum, which is 5.46. That's the dust limit. So that's the minimum what you need to use for voting. And when you would have earned 1,000 BSQ already, then you would have as a voting weight 1,000. Let's use an easy example with 100. Let's say I only use 100 BSQ for voting, and I have earned 1,000, then my voting weight is 1,100 BSQ. And it's independent. If you still have this BSQ, what you have earned, you can have sold it on the market, and that doesn't matter. When you still have it, then you have probably still 1,000 BSQ in your wallet. You can use the 1,000 BSQ from your wallet plus the 1,000 what you have earned, so you would have 2,000 BSQ in your as your voting weight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then there's a few advanced features like bonding for bonded rolls and asset fee listing, as we have now a model where altcoins, when they want to get listed, they can define how much fee they want to pay. And maybe I show it quickly, like whatever. I mean, yeah, first it's already traded coins when they are traded actively, which means that in the last 120 days, there was at least 0.01 Bitcoin traded. Then they are active and you can use them, for instance, for setting up an altcoin account. So you would see this here. Bitcoin Cash is there. It was traded. But other altcoins like this new Actinium is not there. So you cannot create an account with Actinium because it's delisted because of lack of activity. It was just released with this version. And when you want to get it basically listed, you can define how much trading fee you want to pay. You pay at the moment it's 1 BSQ per day. And when you pay 30 BSQ, you have basically a trial period of 30 days, in which you get listed, and you have the trade activity is not checked in this time. So when you achieve that your coin really get traded, then it stays listed. When it's not traded afterwards, then it will get delisted again. And for looking this period, to look back for the trade activity, which is by default 120 days, when you pay a smaller fee, like only 30 BSQ, which is the minimum 30 days, then the look back period is also 30 days. So in the last 30 days, you need to have trade volume of 0.01 Bitcoin to stay listed. So I think with that, we have a very flexible and very, a system where nobody can complain that it's too expensive to pay a listing fee. And we have still some filter mechanisms that those coins which never get traded and by that don't add any value to the project are not distracting from the other coins. And we had already with the last 0.7 release, I think we had added something like 30 coins, and I think 1 or 2 coins of them really got traded. All the other got removed again, so that's not really there. idea, and it's a very bad investment of our time and efforts. So that's one attempt to resolve a little bit this problem. And then there are a few other features which I don't want to explain here, that are explained in some other videos already, and it's a little bit more sophisticated. I mean, the most important I really would like to invite every Bisq contributor to play around, and especially the compensation of the voting process, to really understand it, to help us to find bugs. It's our system. I mean, when you're a contributor, you want to earn money. BSQ one day with Bisq when we are live, with the DAO when we are live. And not only that, yeah, when there are big bugs, it would be a huge problem, but also that when it's live and you don't understand the system well and you make some whatever mistake, for instance, that you forget to be online during the vote reveal phase, yeah, then your vote has been invalid, but you have paid the fee for voting. Every activity in the DAO comes with a small fee. And yeah, to avoid these mistakes, it's much easier to play around now. Yeah, any mistake doesn't have real consequences. And yeah, and of course, usability feedback. I mean, it's still a lot of improvements possible on the usability side. It was not the main focus. The main focus is to have everything really stable and bug-free, and there are no consensus errors or whatever. And it's intended. It's not intended for normal users, or it's intended for those who are really contributing to Bisq, who are really part of the Bisq DAO. And those people should take a little bit more time to learn about it and should know about the basics about the DAO. And it can be then assumed that you don't need to explain every small detail, because yeah, that's just more effort. I mean, we will do this over time, that we add more information, pop-ups and whatever to explain the stuff better. But yeah, it takes time, and we want to focus at the moment on stability and security. That's the highest priority.
Yeah, but you should also use it to save trading fees for your trades on testnet, so you can save a lot of money, virtual money, by paying with BSQ.
Yeah, it's actually, I just show you quickly. When you make an offer, for instance, and it would be a 1 Bitcoin trade. In Bitcoin, it would be 2% of the trade volume, which is at the moment €6 more or less. When you use BSQ, it would be, with the current price of BSQ converted to euro, it would be 0.8 euros, so nearly something like 10%. And that's basically our goal, to keep the difference. We want to incentivize the traders that they're using BSQ, because that's basically the economic model, that those who are using the BSQ, they are creating the demand on the market. They are buying BSQ from their contributors, from those who are building the system. And with that, we have this cycle of an economic cycle that it can work. When the traders will not switch over to BSQ and stick with Bitcoin, it would, there's missing this important part. And to motivate the traders to use really BSQ and buy some BSQ, it's a little bit more work, of course. The Bitcoin you have already in your wallet, but you need to make 1 BSQ trade to buy some BSQ. And to motivate them more, we're giving this huge discount. Initially, the Bitcoin fees, like it is now, so the Bisq DAO will not earn much money with the BSQ trade fee. It's basically 10% of the revenue from a normal Bitcoin fee. That's also not good for long term, of course. So over time, we will increase both fees, but the 10% difference between Bitcoin and BSQ fee will probably stay more or less until we reach more or less that 80% of the trade fee is paid in BSQ. I think that's more or less the target. There will be always new people who don't have any BSQ yet. Then for the first trade to buy BSQ, you need to pay in Bitcoin, and it shouldn't be super expensive then. So we will not go too high, but the goal is that we can convert more or less 80% of our traders that they're using BSQ for the trading fee. And and you can change the vote. I think there are some compensation requests for changing a parameter. That's a very important thing. For instance, changing. I've made here a request for this asset listing fee. That's another parameter which can be changed. At the moment, I said it's very cheap with 1 BSQ, but it can be changed. Anybody can say, no, that's too cheap. We should change it to 5 or to 10 BSQ. And when it get voted okay, then in the next cycle, the new fee will be the valid fee. And for the trade fee as well, we start very low, and we are not changing the Bitcoin fee, but it can be then changed over voting, and it's basically up to the stakeholdership. Everybody who has BSQ is part of this decision-making process, how their fees are applied, and the parameters of the DAO basically.
Yeah, Manfred, people are asking in the chat when it will be live. So we are now on testnet, and we need your support to test the hell out of it, to find any bugs that might be critical when we do a mainnet launch. Do you have an idea, Manfred? How long will we run this on testnet?
There's also Christmas in between, so that will not be a super active time. I think 2 months is the minimum to really test it very, very properly. I mean, so far we have not discovered big issues, small stuff, but nothing critical. And there is also a bounty program I posted on the forum. So different categories of bounties will get a different amount of BSQ. On top priority are consensus bugs. So when somebody finds a real consensus bug that one client shows a different state of the DAO like another client, and it's really basically a consensus bug, then we are paying quite a lot for such findings. And smaller, there are different categories, and the less important, like small UI glitches, are paid with small amounts. And how much we pay, that will depend on the case. We are honest, and we want to motivate good contributors to help us. So we try to not pay the absolute minimum, but it's basically then the developer's decision how much they are willing to or it's basically you make a when you find any issue, you make a compensation request, which is orientated on this bounty. And when you ask for too much, when you like for, I think between 5 and 10,000 BSQ, we offer for consensus bugs. But when you find a small UI bug and you want 5,000 BSQ, you will probably be rejected in the voting process. So that's more or less. I mean, the DAO is already working. It's just not it's not coded up, and it's not decentralized, and it's not trust minimized at the moment. But from the basic principles, from the social structure, we're executing this since a year, and it works pretty well actually. We're getting more and more contributors. We have now roughly 20 contributors every month, and quite a big core of fixed contributors who are continuously every month contributing to Bisq. So from the social and from the organizational view and aspect, I think the DAO is already successful, and now we have the challenge to bring it into this into the blockchain domain and in a trustless, censorship resistant, decentralized system. And that's that's the effort for the next month, and hopefully everything goes good.
Yeah, so to name a date, so I guess it will be later than February, so February plus next year, the launch of mainnet.
Probably between February and end of March. In these 2 months, hopefully we can launch. I hope it doesn't take longer than 3 months. But we don't want to push it too much, because when there is a really critical consensus bug, it will require hard work, and it can be a disaster. We have seen this with the DAO. We will build in, and we will make very clear statements how we will deal when there are such bugs or exploits or whatever. Code is not law. Code is intention of some, is expression of some intentions, and the intentions of the DAO is to work as a funding and as management tool for the Bisq exchange, and everything which is against this intention, like when an attacker finds a bug and print 1 million BSQ out of thin air, that's not the intention of the Bisq DAO, and we will do everything to undo this or to stop this or whatever. So it's not a global censorship-resistant blockchain like Bitcoin or like the Ethereum system. It's a different thing. And that's, that's a little bit a bigger topic for maybe a blog post to yeah, to go a little bit more in this discussion. It's a little complex and yeah, controversial, maybe also discussion, but I think from my side at least it's clear that and the DAO has proven that yeah, that this is a bullshit attempt to say code is law, and when you fuck up something, then you're lost with your yeah. Any other questions or
yeah,
comments?
so I just want to point out, so for everyone who is watching that, so you can help us on the one hand side test the current Bisq release on testnet. If you don't have any engineering background, so the testing everyone can do, and it helps a lot. There's also another thing that you could help us with, that it's translation. So with this new release we introduced, yeah, I'm Austrian, yeah. you hear the accent. We introduced lots of new translations, and we need some polishing on our supported languages. So if you do speak one of following languages, it would be great if you could join us on Slack, go to the Transifex channel. That's the tool that we are using, or you can go directly to Transifex. I will post the link below after the call. Just a sec, I will stop presenting, Manfred. So if you speak German, Greek, Spanish, Portuguese, Serbian, Chinese, Hungarian, Romanian, Russian, French, Vietnamese, or Thai, then you're more than welcome to join our translation reviewer team, so we can polish our current translations, and maybe get lots of these translations ready for our upcoming release next week, mid of next week. So I will update early in the morning when we do the release all translation files, so you can work until shortly before the release to polish them, and yeah, that would be great help. Let me just check my notes if I have anything there which we wanted to discuss. Yeah, so if there are any questions from you guys here, Keller, we totally ignored you during the introductional round. It was not by intention. I just wanted to give the Bisq contributors a short introductional round. We talked in the beginning. Keller is interested in Bisq, and yeah, maybe a future contributor. So we have lots of roles to be taken. I will also post a link to the available roles on the Bisq DAO in the description below after the call. And they're not only engineering roles, they're mainly non-engineering roles, actually. So we have something, I guess, for everyone. So does anyone who is watching us live have any question to ask us? We'll just give it a couple of seconds. Chris, do you want to point something out, or as we might not see you live for the next couple of months?
Nothing in particular, just I'll be trying to keep up, watching from the sidelines, and I look forward to being back when all's well, hopefully. Yeah,
we wish you all the best. Yeah, hopefully we'll have you on 100% on board again in no time. Yeah,
I look forward to it.
Take your time.
Thanks.
Okay, Manfred, is there anything from your side you want to point out? Otherwise, let's keep it short and sweet, and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, maybe a little bit what I heard from one guy, at least he was a little bit concerned with such a big update and waited. I mean, so far we were also a little bit conservative with publishing the news too early. We wanted to wait 2-3 days at least to see if there are big problems. Luckily, there are basically no big problems, smaller issues, and in the upcoming release, probably next week or so, we will fix a few of the main problems. I mean, one main issue, which is not really related to the release, is that on Windows, many people have problems on Windows, and the problem is just that the Windows installer doesn't really handle well updates. So when you create a new version, and we had this in the past as well, but with this version, it's such a big change, especially with Java 10, that I think with most Windows installation, it just doesn't work. So you install it, but you cannot start Bisq. the easy solution for this is just delete the application directory, not the data directory. There is your wallet and everything. So there are two different directories on Windows. So the application directory where the Bisq exe is, you can delete this completely, install it again new, and then everything works. And we will fix this in the next update as well, that the installer is doing this in a different way, that we don't have these issues anymore. Another bigger fix, so their initial download, so when the first time when you start up, was quite heavy already, and it was because certain file was not updated over the last 2-3 years, and we found out what was the reason for this and the problem, and we fixed this as well. So with the new release, the initial download is much faster. Is it something like before it was taking whatever 1 minute to have the blockchain synced from Bitcoin J, and now it's something like 10 seconds. And a few other good bug fixes. But basically, it's safe to update. Actually, it's much more safer now because there have been a lot of important bug fixes, especially with sleep mode, that has caused a lot of bugs. That when you leave Bisq running in the background, at least on Mac OS, your application still get reduced a lot from the resources what it can consume. And when you have offers online, for instance, the offer still stays online because you get the minimum of resources. But when somebody wants to take your offer, it often fails because your application has so low CPU and network resources that it cannot respond correctly in time. And that has caused a lot of issues. And that's fixed also. We found a hack to avoid this sleep mode, basically, that when your computer is in sleep mode and you have defined that the network connection still be available, then your Bisq application get 100% stay alive and doesn't get throttled down by the operating system. I don't know exactly how it is on Linux and Windows, but I can assume they have similar mechanisms, and so at least on the Mac that was a relation that's fixed as well. So, and many other things. So it's really very highly recommended for everybody to update as soon as possible, basically, and especially after the next week. Again, another update, but I think it's already worth to do it now. And you also should do the update directly in the application. That's more secure. When, there's all the check for the hashes and the PGP key and everything that's implemented in Bisq. And when you have when you have the root of your first download from GitHub, when that was not corrupted and everything correct, and then you're always updating from the application, you have you have completely security that nobody could introduce you a malware or whatever. Yeah, I think we're fine.
Yeah, thanks, Manfred, for summing this up. And the next release, also the last release was a couple of months ago. So this time we'll try to keep the release cycles short, way shorter. So we're aiming for maybe once a month. So and this time the next release is already in 2 weeks' time. So or next week actually. Yeah. So thanks again for everyone who was involved in the latest release and is contributing to the Bisq DAO and the Bisq network. And thanks for watching, and see you again next week. And don't forget to update, as Manfred said. Okay. See you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Good call.
Bye-bye.
Bye.